Welcome back to Al-Asad. We're going to talk a little bit about using your sapar in a slightly different manner than we currently do. Currently we use it like as a shield or a buckler, but I feel that the style really needs to be captured in a way that it's not. And by style, I mean the style of fighting that either we imagine or we see written about in manuscripts and documents and poetry and these types of things that come from Persia, Turkish, and the Central Asian region. A way to accomplish this is to think of your sapar as a weapon as opposed to a shield. And ultimately, you're kind of always dual wielding, but this is a different kind of weapon than like a bladed weapon. And if we break the mentality that you're sword and buckler or sword and shield, even though the word sapar translates to a shield, its usage should, at least I feel, should be used as a weapon as opposed to what we currently think as a shield, like a defensive device. Recently, I saw a miniature, and I think I talked about this in the sapar video, the first sapar video I made, where the guy's holding his sapar upside down like this, or his grip is upside down as opposed to this way. And that got me thinking, like, why is he doing this? What would cause him to put his hand like this? We see, at least I've seen some people doing European sword and buckler and twisting their hand this way. Generally, it would be like this type of motion. But in this miniature, that's not the case. And in Middle Eastern, Persian, Turkish, this whole area type of fighting, that's not generally how we use the weapon. The weapon itself, the weapon meaning your sword, shamshir, is swinging weapons, right? Swinging motions. It's not like this type of motion. Something else I feel that we have to break ourselves from. We see a lot of people using a saber like this, which is effective, and we see it in Polish saber and this type of fighting. I personally don't feel that that is the manner in which they used it in the Middle East. We see in dance, traditional dance that's still around, Turkish sword dancing. We see in Persian meal work. I started to use meals, and this stuff kind of all clicks together in how the motion and the movement of your body goes when you're using these weapons. So if you have your sword, right, you see a lot of like this. For watching like a Polish saber or something, you see this. It's talked about that this area right in here is the zone where everybody's wrists are cutting, right? That's for that. But for this, we need to like break ourselves of that and think about the culture and the region and how the weapons were used in that manner. So like I said, when you compare the weapons with the training for the weapons, such as a meal, you see the meal, does the swing, comes down. It's a full swing, that's the motion, right? So that aside, like I said, we're talking about your sapar here though, and the upside down wrist move. When I looked at this, it got me thinking, how did he get into that position? When you're doing a block to like your leg or your lower body, you see you're holding your sapar like this. Most people will just put their sapar down this way, right? But if you're holding your sapar tight and you're using your natural body mechanics, where your elbow is a pivot point, you would aim like this, but you see the sapar is facing down like this as opposed to still blocking this way. There I have a dent on my knee of my armor, and I believe it's from this. I believe that I blocked a shot this way and it slid and hit my knee. So how can that be prevented? I'll show you here, but that got me thinking also, is this an effective block? Yes, it worked, and yes, my armor worked, but what if you didn't have leg armor on? You know, clearly you could have stepped out of the way also, or whatever, but even if your left leg is back and you still try to block, that can still come through. A way that we see a lot of people avoid that is that they'll open their hand in their sapar or their buckler or whatever and block like this. So they'll just block straight down like this. And this works, and that's where I think most people do. However, once again, when we start to think about things slightly differently, and perhaps in context of styles of fighting that are from Central Asia, the Middle East, and when we think about training and working out how these people did, perhaps it's different. The upside down fist would come in here to play here. That would fix the problem of just blocking like this, as well as it creates openings for you to strike. So if we take our sapar from this position, and instead of just going down, and I'm guilty of this, and I had taught this in the past, to keep your sapar kind of on a line like this, right, up and down, up over your head. It's easy, right, to do this, but it's still defensive. Doing this is all defensive. It's not using like a weapon or actively using it. Try to rotate your hand down like this. Now you have the position where your fist is upside down in that manner, right? Your arm is locked. If you have bazu bands on, your whole arm is protected here with armor. From here up, if you have shoulder armor, even if you just had mail and not pauldrons, which is generally a lot of times what we would see, your mail would end here, your bazuban would protect, and in the Middle East, we use bazubans as part of active defense. So by doing this, this engages your bazuban to become the defense, as well as blocking your shield, or with your shield. When you do this, however you do it, your bazuban is not covering you. It's not working to its best ability, because right here, there's the opening, right? Your bazuban just comes to here. Because your arm bends this way, this is the opening on your body, right? So to cover the opening, to get a better block, to use your body mechanics better, more efficiently, when you rotate your hand like this, now you have total coverage. The bazuban is working as a defensive piece of armor. Your shield is working that way. And we're going to add another element. When you do this motion here, you're deflecting as opposed to just blocking, right? When you come around like this, you're deflecting the shot out of the way. When you deflect out of the way, that creates the opening right here on your opponent for you to strike, right? When you just block down this way, your opponent still hits, but they're still in this area here, right? You haven't created an opening or anything for you to actually do anything. You just blocked, right? So try to think in this next step of reasoning or logic, however you want to call it, to deflect your opponent's shot out of the way, create the opening for you to strike, and then you'll be able to strike. Now let's give you an example of this. I'm going to use my Kanjar as well. It'll help demonstrate the rotation of the shield, as well as add in a strike, because we want to start to use our sapar as a weapon and actively engage in striking with it. So if you're in your stance, we'll break down this whole little sequence I made that you could have seen on Instagram that I've been working on. So you're in your guard here like this. A lot of people fight like this. Try fighting like this. Either way works, but for this it's easier to do this type of motion from this guard, right? So you're going to step back and do the block, the deflective block, right? That's the first move. So you're in your guard here. If you're using a Kanjar, hold your Kanjar like this, right? Don't hold it like this. Hold it this way, right? For me, on this, I have it behind the thread or the rope of my shield. That's only because my shield is strapped bigger than my hand, so I can fit my gauntlet in it. If I had my gauntlet in, I don't think I would be holding it the regular way. All right, so back to this. Right leg back. You're in your stance. Step back and deflect. So do it again. Step back and deflect. Deflect the shot out of the way. That's creating the opening here to strike. Right? Step back, deflect. So now what we're going to do is add a strike. The strike's going to be a upward diagonal strike, right? But when you do the block, right, you're going to cover your whole upper body. Right? So you're going to step back, do the block, and you want to put your sword into this position here, into a hanging guard. From this hanging guard now, you're completely covered from the shot that would have came to your left, right? And if you notice, by doing a rotation like this, as opposed to this, it covers you here. So it's covering every opening on you as you're moving, which is what we want to do. We want to cover the spots that become apparent and open when we're moving our other weapon, which is the shamshir here. So when you like this and you go up to here, basically the tip of your shamshir is on a pivot point and you're just pivoting up. But as you're doing that, right, you're creating this big opening here for your armpit. But when you start like this, if you go slow, rotate back, see you're covering that with your sapar and getting into this position here, which is the block. With your Kanjar, if you have a Kanjar, it's also offering you some defense there as well. Right, so we'll go slow through the whole thing, right? Step back, boom, cover. Now you're in the hanging guard here. The next shot, the strike now, you blocked. So the strike is going to become up this way. You're going to step. So you're going to step up like this. That's going to be the strike. As you do it, you're going to cover the whole area where your shamshir was with your sapar. So you come up, look at block, now you strike. You're presenting a threat this way as well. You're covering this area. You've covered this, right? You covered that whole space that was open as you came up and struck, right? And you're presenting a threat here with your khanjar, right? Immediately do another strike this way. When you come down here, pull your, after you do the strike, pull your tip back up to present the threat this way. And now here is the attack with your shield or your khanjar. If you don't have a khanjar, this can be a shield punch or a slash, but step and punch, right? Notice I'm punching that way. I'm not punching straight, right? You're punching this way. I'm using the khanjar, that's to simulate cutting across like the throat or something like that. So let's go through this slow. I'll do the whole routine very slow. And so you're in your stance, right? Step back, boom, like this, right? Then come up like this, immediately strike again, and step across like that. Do it again. Let's see. Step back like here. Strike up, step. You can even step and another step. Some people don't like to go like this and like this. They might like to go step, step, and then strike, because you're striking with the same foot. It's up to you. We'll do it that way just as an example. So if you're starting here, right, step down like this, block, strike, right? You can strike again this way, strike, and then you can strike. The reason I don't like this strike is because as you're stepping, your right leg is forward as you're coming down like this. For me, body mechanically, it's easier to have your right leg back when you're doing a downward diagonal cut in this manner, because it's all open and you can get the power. When you step like this, this is creating like a measure issue, like a distance, right? This, you can be close and strike your opponent. This, you're kind of striking at a different distance. That's just personal preference, so you can do it either way. In some instances, you might end up striking like that, or not. So let's do it again, slow. Right? So you're starting here, right? Step, block, cover, strike, go right to another strike, then strike. Do it one more time. Strike, 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 strike. So there you go. I hope that kind of began to broaden the way you use your sapar or think about using it. If you watched the whole thing to now and you got any questions, feel free to leave a comment, like and subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching. Have a good night.